Welcome, Atlanta United, to another episode of Resurge The Spike ATL here with the usual guests, Tommy and James. And we have a guest from Dirty South Soccer, Tyler Pilgrim. Thank you for being here, man. I
Thanks for the
mean,
invite.
we, I mean, this is the first time you're here, man. But I mean, we've talked like hundreds of times after those painful losses, that Atlanta United has been struggling with lately, and on Twitter Spaces. So, yeah, man. But overall, man, just thank you for being here, brother, and
Yeah,
giving us your
I
thoughts
appreciate
and
it. It's nice
comments.
to be here when it's I don't know, a couple of days removed from having my heart broken. At least not like the moment after we have to sit there and cry about everything.
Right. No, it is. It's definitely a different feeling, right after the game. But guys, as usual, subscribe to Felix Sports Podcast on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, as well as these guys. You can see Tom, Tyler, you have your info out there as well. ATL Pilgrim, you can find them on. I don't know if you have Facebook, but you can find them on Twitter for sure. These guys, as well as Tommy at Let's Go Ducks 96 and James Cowdom Miss 26, I believe, right?
Yes, sir. You got it.
Yeah, so these guys give them a follow as well. Thank you guys, for as well the ones that are always here, commenting and giving us your thoughts. We're just basically gonna give a real quick, dig into what it was that we had to sit through and watch late at night on a Sunday, before I believe many of us had to go to work the next day. So
Miserable.
So should we start with
the
the lineup? I don't know. I don't know where to really start with this. I guess we got to start with the lineup choices, right?
Yeah. I mean, it has to be the main point. I mean, you go into a match like this, benching Almada, for basically no reason. Apparently, for Pineda, I mean, going into what he said, afterwards. I mean, we're gonna, get into that, like what he actually said, but. I mean, it's just mind blowing. I mean, you're gonna sit a player out like Almada, which he has so much to give you, in transition. The way that he dictates the game and everything. So it's just kind of mind blowing. You're gonna have those kind of decisions.
So is this going to turn into a conspiracy theory here? Was it really tactical? Was it that maybe he's not healthy and he's protecting his player and not admitting that he's not healthy because we are the New England Patriot of injuries, right? We're very vague about all of them. And that's a question is what are they really thinking here?
I just think Pineda wanted to go with the same lineup back-to-back games just for fun. There's no really other explanation that I can say.
Yeah, I think like when you look at it, I imagine Pineda was just trying to keep the consistency.
Yeah.
They've been trying to have consistency all season, and they can't figure out a way to do it because of the injuries. And this was like one of two times during the entire season been able to start the same starting 11 back to back. So I mean, I don't want to say there's any conspiracy theories. The problem is when you ask Pineda about this kind of stuff, he's very vague about all of it. So
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything to it. But Almada, I'm like, dude, that's crazy. The Joseph thing, I can go either way. I understand it from a tactical standpoint, maybe, but not starting Almada to me is just mind blowing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the only way I saw it, as him just wanting to put the same lineup out because there's just no reason for him to be on the bench.
I mean, yeah, and what it's also like, once you actually go to like the performance, from the players as well, like, is you have two different aspects of the game, or two different games, basically when you're playing at home and where you're playing away. I mean, Tyler, we were talking about this before the game the other day, like Atlanta, if they want to have any sort of hope, by the time it comes to decision day of making the playoffs, you got to start picking up at least a point from away from home. And we've been by far like one of the worst teams away from home. So
that famous, well, one of the many famous tweets about our record away from home, it continues to grow. One away and like I think now
1-7-1, I think it is.
Yeah, I think it's
ridiculous.
Yeah, it's obscene, and that's the thing about it. Like everybody always wants to talk about it being really, really hard to pick up points away. Like to me, that's an excuse. Honestly, like I get it. It's never easy to go away, but you pick up something occasionally, like one away and then one draw. That's miserable. You can't make the playoffs doing that.
Especially when the one win was lucky against DC United.
Yeah. Well. Yeah, what was that? A Moreno, like 92nd minute header?
I mean, the pitch is almost always the same size. The ball is probably inflated pretty close. But yeah, I get it. It's away, but still, going one and whatever, it's silly.
Yeah, I mean, and it comes to like as well, like the performance from like the players, it just looks like I don't want to say it diminishes, like as the game goes on, but I feel like as a coach, I mean, you have to have some type of like the ability to like uplift your player, when you're in the situation where you're stuck in the game and you're not finding those opportunities. I mean, at times you gotta be able to settle like the player mentally, I feel like to a certain point where they're not getting frustrated and they're making bad decisions, because I mean that's what it kind of looks like to me. I mean, to a point where the players are making decisions like individually that are just bad. I mean, we have times where we have 2v1s, going, on offense, and we make like seriously like the most childish decisions. And I mean, you look at it and then you're like, these guys have, more a better soccer IQ to be, doing what they're doing.
And I get like the team being very young, understand that. But to me, every time Atlanta goes away, they come out and they just look flat. Like this one was especially flat. Like the way they came out against the Galaxy was terrible. But like all of their away games, I don't know if it's something with like the way they travel now. Like the really that was even something Pineda said last week when I was actually talking when they had the media availability, and he was like, we have nothing to complain about. Like we have charter flights now, and everything's just taken care of. There's really nothing to complain about. And I'm like something is going on that y'all come out every away match and look like you don't want to be there. And I don't know what to do to fix that.
Yeah.
I think losing is contagious though, right? So
yeah.
Losing's contagious. And when you see a team, whatever league that you're watching, when they go on a skid, teams can go on real bad skids, and sometimes it doesn't get fixed. And it's hard. I mean, you're seeing in baseball right now. I think the Red Sox are like on a crazy losing streak. You've seen good football teams go on it, and we saw Manchester United last year, they had a good roster, but once they went downhill, they didn't recover pretty much the entire season, and it's hard. And I don't think it's just on the coach. I think a lot of it's on the players as well, but it's definitely hard to get back onto that winning streak.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Also, another thing, I mean, like, when it comes to the tactical side, I mean, if you look at that as well, I mean, and it's like you could, kind of like, yeah, when, basically going back to what Tommy said just now with, not all being on the coach, or not all being on the player. I mean, yeah, it's 50-50 at this point, because you're not seeing, neither Pineda, basically do something tactically throughout the game that is, also going to change, the outcome of the game, or that has really basically outcoached the other team. I mean, in my opinion, I mean, you like Tyler as well. You hit that point. You have a young squad, but the guys that are on the field have better quality than what they've shown throughout, this point of the season or to this point of the season, basically.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like the guys making bad decisions, but when the problem players that everyone's talking about are Araujo and Almada, or not Moreno, when they get the ball and they have their heads down, but they have no support. They have no one to play to. They're trying to create their own space, and it's not working, obviously. But there's nothing to do, and they don't want to play it back because they're frustrated when they do that, and there's no midfield help. They can't do anything, and they have to try it themselves, and it doesn't work all the time. It doesn't work out.
Yeah, there's like a huge disconnect, it seems like, between I guess like your holding mids and then your attacking midfielders. They don't ever seem on the same page. And I feel like, the team looks the best. And this is not like trying to be a throwback to 2018. And obviously we all wish it would happen, but looks better overall in transition and speed they've got on the field. I mean, you have some very technical players, and that's great. But you just got to figure out a way to capitalize on what you can't stick with the same mindset you had back in March when you had different players that were playing. And you look at this LA game and you look at the stats, like overall, like we knew going into it, LA was going to be pretty, both teams were kind of having a rough patch and everything. Look at the stats after the match, and it was actually pretty even on paper. This was like the match where Atlanta kind of got knocked down a peg in possession. But other than that, like, you look at like passing accuracy, like 84%. It was on both sides. Where Atlanta really got killed with shots on target. I mean, they took 12 shots and had 3 on target, and that's just like that's part of it too. Like they can't finish right now, and it's just I don't know if it's luck or I don't know what it is.
Yeah. I mean, eventually here, you have to change your expectations of what this team is, and I think a lot of fans haven't. And Tyler and I talk to people on Spaces, and it's usually hot take hour, right? Like everybody's got their hot take of what it is, and realistically, I always forget about Sosa and that he hasn't played a lot this season. I mean, you really expected Sosa and Ozzy Alonso to share, the starting role there, and they haven't. And you're just missing everybody else. And I just think, obviously you have the quality of your offensive players, but your defensive players, it's rough. And we're always allowing a goal in the first 15 minutes. We lead the league in goals against in the first 15. And everybody that does this to us, it's the same formula: score early and then just play defense, park the bus, and see if Atlanta can get through it. And if Atlanta can't get through it, they've got all the momentum, which is nice, but sometimes it's just too little, too late, right? Like Orlando, you give us an extra maybe 5 minutes, we might win that game, but it didn't happen. We didn't have an extra 5 minutes. We ended up drawing. We had momentum in that Galaxy game towards the end, and we couldn't score. And then obviously, they get the last second goal there, but it's rough. And I've just come to the expectation, and I said this months ago, and it was definitely too early to say it months ago, but now I think it's time that we have to see what we have for the rest of the year. I don't see this team making the playoffs. You look at the schedule, it's hard. There's just too many good teams, too many teams above the playoff line, teams that are improving through the transfer window. Toronto's getting crazy. Columbus has gotten better. Cincinnati's been improving. Chicago's been getting better. Like, everyone's getting better. And we're going to get some players back, right? We're going to get Gutman back here sooner than later. Mascara is going to come in. But it's not going to make us a difference as far as making the playoffs, in my opinion.
Yeah, totally agree on that, man. I hear with Matt Wagner's comment, talking about a big hole to basically fill, at the number 6 position. I think I mentioned it, on the Spaces this past weekend. We're missing that box-to-box midfielder. Desperate Nagby. That's who we had, but we don't have a player that's able to give you that. The closest thing to that was basically Sosa, but the guy just doesn't play. And Honestly, I don't think that he's gonna be getting a starting position. I mean, I feel like Rossetto is more of the guy that Pineda has more of a trust in. Him, Ibarra, Hyman. I don't know, man. I just don't see that he personally takes Sosa as like the number one or two option in any of those positions, in my opinion. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
So
all the midfielders you have though are literally just they don't shine, but they're not bad. They're just middle. They're just mid. I don't.
no, you know what the thing is that they all play the same way. They're like side to side players. They're
Literally.
they're not vertical players that are gonna give you like a run and in between lines or anything like that. And you just don't have that.
In my opinion, like Hyman, Rossetto, and Sadic are all like the same. I don't see much of a difference between all three of them. I mean, I feel like Sosa. I mean, he's a good defender. He showed his passing ability, obviously, in 2021, but he shines out more than any of the other guys. The other guys are just there. And I think Sosa deserves the spot, but Sosa or Ibarra, because you need one of those guys, because those two can defend maybe a little bit better than those two. But you also need them going forward, making the runs. Like one of the goals, I don't know which game it was, but Rossetto and Hyman were making runs inside the box to have more options. And that's something we're struggling with, is end product. And maybe that could help out a little bit.
See, and that was like one of the things that Pineda had mentioned again last week. He was basically saying, like, he actually called out Rossetto and was saying, even the midfield, they have to be making these attacking runs when they have this opportunity. You've got to make the run. He was saying that about all of the attacking players, obviously, the ones that you clearly think about, like your Cisneros and Josephs and those guys. But I really think like Sosa sitting in front of the back three and then having Rossetto. That's my thing about Rossetto too, though, is he's got to step up. Like he's got the quality. He just got to be more consistent with it. Mm-hmm. We've seen that he's got. I think me and you, Ariel, at one point earlier this season, were mentioning like, as he grows into it, maybe he could be that. I'm not gonna like say he's gonna be Darlington Nagbe, but like he shows flashes at times. He's got the quality and the ability. But I would actually at this point almost rather see like a double pivot with Sosa in the back and Hyndman up front. I mean, I'd give Hyndman a little bit of leeway because he's coming off the injury, and he hasn't had a whole lot of time. I mean, he's had of course he gets injured again. So, and we all know like Hyndman's one of the attacking oriented midfielders, and you're not losing a ton because you do have guys that are smart enough, like Almada, if he gets that are going to be able to drop back if one of them is making a forward run. I mean, you got the options there, and I would like to see that. I think that's going to play to their strengths a lot more.
Yeah. And by the way, with Bart's comment, can we argue that Andrew Gutman has been the best player this season, barring the attackers? Because I truly think he is with the defensive midfield. He's been the most consistent and best player this season.
Yeah, and the short time we saw Alonso too. I mean, Alonso, short time. I mean, he was.
If we had Alonso, it would be a different story, in my opinion. Yeah. And also Lennon, 100%. Because McFadden is young, of course, and especially Gutman going back in for Wiley because inexperience and all that. But Hyman doesn't do much. He's just, in my opinion, similar to the other two guys we already have in.
Yeah.
With more experience.
But Andrew Gutman's critical. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, everybody obviously, from the starters coming back is a huge help. But yeah, Gutman is obviously the key guy, going forward. And then Caleb Wiley coming in, in the second half. He's also going to be critical, when it comes to closing out, games. Hopefully, you're able to take advantage of the pace, as we saw in that first game that, hey, we all thought we were going to win MLS Cup after that game. Like, we were like, hey, yeah, this is it.
Yeah, Caleb Wiley would be huge in that left wing role for like 20 to 30 minutes a game.
Yeah. And I think, too, give him another year and it'll be a whole different story. But,
yeah,
I think Gutman, out of those three that Bart brought up, I think Gutman's obviously like the big one because – people don't look at his attack either, which is, partially his own fault because he's been put in positions times this season to tap in a ball and just can't do it for some reason. But he's finding himself in the right spots, and that's half the battle. So I mean, and we all know he's by far the best on that side defensively. So I think if you add him now, and he's also got the ability to have 3 center backs behind him as well if they continue with the same shape. And I think maybe that helps out him because he is aggressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's just been the whole season, his final product. So
yeah,
for every single player on the team.
And people forget we were 3-1-1, right? I think that was our record after 5 games. Like we were a solid team, and it maybe wasn't pretty, but we were still gutting out wins. And obviously the DC was an example of it, but it just got bad. And even if you just have Miles Robinson, I think our record is completely different at that time, right? Like just someone solid back there, like you at least have 3 more wins in my opinion, but we don't, and our replacements aren't there, and Franco's just been mediocre. It's rough, and I don't know. At this point, I think you just have to play all your players to get playing time to know what you have for next season. And we talked about that a couple of days ago. Was you got to see what you have, and Sosa's the number one example right there. Right, he's got to play. If he's healthy, we need to know what we have. If not, move on. Opening the U22 spot is huge, and we could possibly open up a couple of them because Mascara is likely going to be taken off, right? Like he's not going to be a U22 spot after this season. They can move him to the normal roster, so we could potentially have 2 U22 spots if Sosa's not the guy.
That depends on if they want to, though, because when they stay on that U22 spot, they free up a whole lot budget wise. So which is why I think Sosa's still on it.
So I don't know if you're able to see Tommy the comments right now, because I don't know if you're trying to avoid being hit by a car, but Silv over here is talking about Wiley's better than Gutman and that Gutman can't compete a pass. Go ahead, man. Hit him with the argument of the week.
Oh God. Oh man, come on. Tonight it's a nice night out. I'm getting a walk in, and I'm getting hit with that. I mean, nobody was talking trash about Gutman until he disappeared and Wiley had a few good games. I think that right now this team needs someone that defends a little bit better, and Gutman is better than Wiley, and Wiley's still young. I think Wiley right now would be a fantastic sub late in the game, but that's just my opinion.
I'll add on to that too, though. I think that unlocks a whole lot because we're always going to talk about the injuries, right? But there's something to be said about bringing in somebody young and energetic. We always talk about, your CW Javas of the world. I'm not going to sit there and say that Caleb Wiley's that, but like somebody that can kind of help shore up the beginning of the game and not give away a stupid goal 10 minutes in, Gutman. And then you also have a Wiley to come in, with 20 or 30 minutes left and maybe make a difference and give you something that Gutman is not going to give you.
Yeah.
Up a little bit better. I mean, because Wiley is more of he does like that cut back to the middle, but he's not afraid to run straight at touch and across him with anybody, which is something that his team's been really missing because you have Brooks Lennon on the other side who, God bless him, like he'll send in a ball, but I could tell you I could put it on a dime where it's going to go every time, and he's just predictable. So I think you get something when you bring in, both of them off, maybe have one start and one come in late. I mean, they haven't been able to do that this season because they can't. They don't have the injury.
Yeah, and going back to Josh's comment here is like, how much blame do you put on the injuries? And it's like I think it's 40% injuries fault, and the rest is the fault, between Pineda and the players. Yeah, we kind of like
answer. I have a good one here. No, I got a good one here.
Yeah,
I think injuries fault is 60%. I think that the players are 30%, and 10% is on the coaching staff. You don't think injuries are affecting this team?
Injuries. We could still be good with injuries.
I think I'm actually gonna go with
Pineda
Josh.
said it.
I think it's 40%. Injuries, and the rest is between the players and the coaching. I mean, there's just not any idea, like, I mean, we could, I guess, at times see, the style that Atlanta wants to implement, but you see that 40 games, you see that 40 minutes, basically of a game. You never see it. I mean, you rarely, I mean, let's be honest, besides the first game of the season, we have not seen Atlanta United put up a full 90 minutes where they have put up a good performance defensively or offensively. I mean, and not counting US Open Cup, but against MLS opponents, it's been a shame, honestly, when it comes to, Atlanta not being able to perform, a good 90 minutes. I get it, they're not always going to be on the front foot. They're not always going to be, basically trying to have, the ball in the front foot. But I mean, it's, when you don't have the ball, you got to know how to defend. You got to know how to, tactically, I guess, manage that. And I mean, there just hasn't been neither understanding from the coach or from the players, how to adjust throughout the games. And I agree with what, when it comes to that comment that John said.
But I mean, when you look at the injuries, right? Like you look at just take the percentages, like your highest paid players, a lot of them. I mean, you still got a lot of them, but a lot of your mid-tier players that are right under your DPs, Brad Guzan, Lennon, Miles Robinson, Gutman. Who were we just talking about? Who's been out? I mean, it's all these guys, and Ozzy Alonso, like. One, I mean, you've got all your guys that have any type of leadership skills. They've been out most of the year. And I think that says a lot. This team lacks leadership across the board. Rossetto is not a captain. I'm sorry. I don't see it. And it's a lot of your talent. And it's rough right now across the board. And I mean, when you obviously don't have your main player, Joseph Martinez, doing nothing, you have Aruju, who is okay, but he's just not finishing. And he, does the grumpy face at least 5 times a game and gets a stupid yellow. I mean, that's where we are. And Almada's not even playing. Almada got, suspended for 3 games for something stupid. And what now? Why isn't he starting? I mean, I think there's going to be more to this. Is it a Barco sleeping with someone's girlfriend situation? We don't know. It could be anything. He could be up all night playing Call of Duty. We don't know what the situation here is. If he doesn't start next week, I don't know.
I think the whole team needs to sit up all night and play Call of Duty and figure something out. Get shot at for a little bit. Like they got to develop something together because they go out and they just look like they don't want to be there. And like going back to the 40% thing, I mean, I would have maybe agreed like closer to Tommy's ratio up until this because Pineda completely outcoached in the first half. Like you've got to change something up. The moment you your team out and you see, oh, they're not playing the formation that we've been planning on this entire week, we probably should change something right now and not at halftime. And that, unfortunately, that's where I think that's Pineda's biggest issue. And I'm not sitting here saying like Pineda out. I'm not on that boat. But at the same time, like he's got to adapt. He's got to adapt and do it quickly.
I mean, the players have shown it the past 3 matches since Austin, but they just have to fight. I mean, this team can play well, and they have played well. I mean, 3rd in expected goals in MLS this season. I mean, you still have, on paper, one of the best attacks in the entire league. You still have all of these guys here. There's no excuse to be losing games, no matter who you're playing, because the team is still solid. And you just can't blame on injuries and do all this crap. The guys just have to fight, and literally – that's what they did against LA.
All right, Ted Lasso. This sounds like a Ted Lasso speech here.
Can you tell the difference between the Austin game and the LA Galaxy game? Could you tell? You could. They're trying, bro. It's just they can't freaking finish like all season. But this team is
still rewatch the first 20 minutes.
4 points off the line
with
the game in hand, right? 4 points off the line. We're still right there, dude.
Okay,
yeah, don't we still have a game in hand as well?
James, I want an essay on how injuries have affected this team 0%.
They haven't.
0.
That's not.
Get out of here. That's the most insane thing you've ever said.
It's not a valid excuse, though.
I'm about to walk
still
into
have,
traffic
you still
right
have
now
11
just
players
thinking
on the
about this
pitch, right?
comment.
You still have 11. They're still there. You still have all of your highest paid players.
I mean,
you still play
it
your
is
highest paid quarterbacks.
arguable that, you do have, player by player better quality, at times than the teams that we've played in. I don't know. I don't remember one of you guys brought this up a little earlier. The schedule is not going to help, coming in. I mean, we have like some of the basically toughest teams and the like playoff teams, basically. You have. I thought I brought it up, but never mind. I thought I had it here, but I know we play obviously Seattle next week at home. We play Columbus coming in. We play Chicago, this coming up Saturday. You have, I believe, the New York Red Bulls. I mean, this whole basically month of August, you have games that are, either this is gonna make something out of this season or is gonna completely break it. Like just completely.
I wonder because I think the biggest frustration about this team is like they tend to play to their adversity, and like you look at the schedule this season, it's like the polar opposite of last season.
Yeah,
last season they worked their way into some easy games, and now like they had chances in the beginning and have blown many what should have been very winnable easy games. I say easy because not. I mean, it's soccer, so freaking whatever. Crap happens, but I mean, you had some really big mid teams that you were playing before, and now those teams have gone out and got infinitely better with some of their signings in the summer window. So now you're looking at going into not only the second half of the season, but now you've got to deal with it with the same team played, having much better players and much more time to and it feels like a missed opportunity.
Yeah, but if you stack up both 11s next to each other an hour before the match against Chicago, we're saying we have the better players in terms of quality. We're still saying that.
But you still need defense. You still need defense. And go look at our defense right now.
What, like 3 goals in our last 3, barring that last goal that doesn't even matter against LA?
No. Okay, but you're saying 0%, and you watch Shuttleworth. You watch Shuttleworth play. You watch every single one of those Shuttleworth games. We all did. They were disasters. I mean, missing Brad, who we all trash talked for so long and didn't know what we really had with Brad, and then we went to Shuttleworth. I mean, those games were terrible. I mean, that's just one thing of obviously an injury has affected it because he retired. He was so shitty. He retired.
We're talking about right now, though.
But you said the percentage for the season. Percentage for the season. There's dogs barking right now at you, James. You hear that? There's dogs barking at you.
we still should win. We still should be looking for 3 points every game, no?
It's not that they're not. It's just that they're not. And
they've been showing it, dude. They just can't finish.
Yeah, I'll throw this out there. I don't necessarily. I mean, it's injuries for sure. Injuries is a big. A lot of things that are big issues. To me, the biggest thing is the mentality. There's so many games that they come out there and they just don't seem to be on the same page. Of course, you have to look at the coaching staff. I mean, when you come out there, the first 5 minutes 10 minutes really, because you gave away the goal. But when you come out the first 5 minutes that you did against the Galaxy and you look that polar opposite that you did in the earlier part of the week when you had the Orlando game and in RSL, like there's something, I don't know if it's intangible. I don't know the training ground, but there's something that's just shutting this team off mentally. And I do think that they have talent to go out there and make the playoffs, but nobody's like, we've gone back to not playing as a team again. And they don't have an identity. They had one for about 5 minutes in the first match of the season, where Pineda's trying to do the 4-3, or whatever you want to call it, and he was like big on it, and that was his thing. He really wanted to play that style of football. Get it? Like it's great when it works, but then when you start looking at injuries and your team doesn't have that quality that your actual starting 11 probably should have had, you've got to go to something else because they don't have the experience. I mean, you're playing with such young kids at this point. A lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them. That they're not used to even playing that with the twos if they came from the two. I just think adaptation and mentality biggest thing.
Yeah, but that's if it's just mentality, then the play on the pitch could still be fine. Which
I mean, maybe, but like if something's, we don't know, there might be a crap show in the locker room. There might be something, because that's the thing about Pineda. He's never going to come out and tell you anything bad about his players or his staff. Who knows? Because then we start speculating, like, oh, is Almada injured? Did Almada piss somebody off? Did he do something? Did the front office with Joseph's statements that bad? Is that really why he's not playing? And so we'll never know if it's a mentality thing. But I do think, morale is a big factor in a lot of this stuff. And if a team doesn't have the morale out there, then you're gonna see it. So I don't know. It could be so many things, but it's just frustrating to watch, because on paper they should be so much better. Even your second and third string that you've got right now.
Sure.
And look at the NFL. I mean, you could have the highest scoring team in the NFL, just keep putting up points, but if you have no defense, there's a very good chance you could still lose. Same with any other sport. If you have terrible defense, you're not going to win. And it's the same thing over and over. Everybody scores early. They just park the bus. And this Atlanta United team has never been able to get past getting scored on first. It's the record. I wish I had it in front of me, is crazy. We can't come back from being down 1-0. It's very difficult for the squad since the beginning.
Yeah, but we still have 13 matches left. That's the thing. We shouldn't throw in the towel and start Tristan Traeger and Jackson Conway as striker, like you're saying.
And I'm not saying that. I mean, let's talk about that. Joseph Martinez has a year left.
Joseph should not go anywhere. It's kind of silly though at this point.
Well,
he's played well recently, besides, barring the last two games, but literally he's been off the bench, number one. He scored against Red Bull and against New York City. I'm sure he's not using the effort, but I mean, what do you have? You have Ronaldo Cisneros, who's not even close. And then, I mean, but he's not going to start Dwyer, so that's not even a conversation.
So I guess we're going to this conversation now.
Yeah, but
I mean, there's something that you have to evaluate.
No, but if you want Martinez now, he's been playing well this season.
I mean,
I'm not saying move him now.
You can say he's lazy, he's still there. He's been lazy his entire career. That's what he does. He stands between the line.
Look, guys,
there's just no end product to get him the ball. It's just simple.
Look, you know what's funny? We haven't even hit the second point yet, and I mean, we've literally been talking about it the whole time. And I mean, to a certain degree, I'm being about the statements, that were said about the lineups. I mean, after the game, I mean, what was said about Almada, what Rossetto said, basically, it's. I mean,
what did Rossetto say? Maybe I missed that part.
I think Pineda was just like a hothead like me, and he just starts saying random stuff. He's like, oh, I can only put in 4 attackers, so I'm not going to put in my $16 million player in the starting lineup.
Yeah, he said something about the Almada situation. What he basically brought up is that he only has 3 options there, and, basically he has decisions to make.
He's not going to mess that up again. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Also another the correct front 3 next game.
Yeah, another quote that he brought up is like what you saw in the first half, it wasn't the plan. Credit to LA and the good taxes they put in. I felt like in the second half we corrected that, and that it was really what we wanted to do from the beginning. I mean, but going back to what we mentioned earlier, I mean, the fact that he's not able to adjust. I mean, you have to literally wait 45 minutes, for you to wait and adjust something that it was, kind of common sense. Like if you see you're getting outplayed to that certain degree, which Atlanta United was in that first half. So
that's 3 things. Sorry, Tyler, go ahead.
No. I was just saying, I thought, because I think you had actually asked a minute ago about what Rossetto said, and his quote was that they had asked why it was difficult to control the midfield in the first half, and he responded, "We talked with Pineda about that, and maybe changing the formation, and that goes back to the point earlier. Like it should not have taken to half. I understand that you don't typically make subs before halftime."
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that would have been the right decision, but just when it comes to position, and then like I mentioned at at the beginning, just being able to pick up the team morale, if they're going through a rough patch. I mean, you as a coach, that's the key, factor for you to be able to get to get the better out of players throughout the game, at practice, more importantly throughout the game, more than anything else.
Okay, and thank you, Josh, for bringing up Oklahoma. One possible team here that's a high score with terrible defense. You want to talk about the Falcons Super Bowl? Let's go to one of the best offenses ever,
No,
but
don't
one of the
bring that
worst
up because
defenses.
there's more Falcons fans in here, Tommy. I don't think you want to do that, man.
Hey, I'm a Falcons fan as well, so I know it. But
I totally forgot. I totally forgot you are.
So I mean, there's three things that have really started to change my mind about Pineda, and two of them are extremely questionable. One was Joseph Martinez calling out players at practice, saying they're not working hard. Now we know Joseph's a drama queen, and when he says things, sometimes they're just absolutely magnified by 1,000% by him, right? So that worries me a little bit. The second one was obviously not starting Omada. But again, I don't know if there's something questionable in the background, because we were all questioning why Barco wasn't starting, right? Why Barco wasn't playing games. And then like 3 weeks later it came out about the, personal conduct and him getting sacked. And, they finally said something. There's that. But those comments about, credit to LA, well, you just discredited yourself by saying you didn't try to change anything. And that's worrisome to me. I don't know. I think he shoots himself in the foot too many times when he talks, and it just made him sound terrible. And I don't know. I'm not Pineda out, but I mean, we talked about this, on Sunday, was that I don't think anyone's job is safe anymore.
Put that down. They just scored. I think they're winning now, 2-1. Okay, whatever.
I thought there was zero chance that Pineda could be fired, but when you got a new president coming in who could possibly change everything about the front office, Boca out, and possibly a Pineda, and everybody's fighting for their jobs for next season. Some guys just might, some of these players that aren't performing will just be out for next year. But Pineda, he's got to make better choices, and it's 13 games if that's what's left, and you got to see improvements. And we talked about the tactical wizard. I mean, that's what we were sold on, right? Like, that's what Schmetzer said when he finally got the job. And have we seen it? I don't think so.
No, but I mean, it's been getting better, if we can say anything. It seems working hard.
No, I mean, you do have to give him, some credit. I mean, to the point where, I mean, yeah, with the injuries, you've kind of been able to adjust, but it's just like, it's difficult when you have like such lack of attitude when it comes to, like the understanding, just everything. We see so many like personal defensive errors that at the end, every single time you feel like, ends up costing Atlanta United a goal. Every time you have a big personal error, it ends up like in the back of the net. And the attitude, I mean, it's just poor. I mean, somebody, that, with Pineda, you don't want to, obviously put it all to, to the extent that, he's the one, being directly, and just not him being a coach, directly, basically. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know. I think I'm just to the point where, like, you just don't know, like, what, even with a full team. I think I brought this up in the Twitter spaces. I mean, personally, I feel like I personally don't know if even with a full team, I think we'll still be struggling. I don't think that we'll be in the position that we are, being like 10th or whatever position we're in right now. But I feel like, we will still be having close games. I don't think that we'll be blowing anybody out like, everybody thought that we would at the beginning of the season. I mean, I don't think that it was going to be to that certain degree, but just tactically, I mean, you just don't see that Pineda at this point has got it.
Yeah, because
I mean, go through that list though. Like, go through that list of players. Like, how important every single one of them are. I mean, we've been with Joseph for what, 6 weeks.
That's what we have is what we have, and they've been getting the thing. They have to play well, obviously, but they can do it.
Can they? Can't. You know, but if you want to take this into video game world, if you're playing with another team that has all 80 players and you're starting, but you don't have defense. There's 2 parts to the game.
I understand that.
There's the defense, the midfield, and the front, and the scores, and your offense is nice, but everything else is just mediocre to below mediocre, especially a lot of times.
Yeah,
I just think that when you look at it, I think what's so frustrating, because like Pineda, I'll give him credit in the sense of like, and don't quote me, but like he doesn't tend to make the same mistakes over. But I also feel like other coaches kind of are able to read him a little bit because they've got more experience. So I mean, obviously, like look at what you've got. Pineda, I mean, he's a great guy. I actually think he has the ceiling to be a coach, but he's in a position now where, I mean, he's been, I say it every week on our Twitter Spaces, but like he's been dealt such a garbage hand with the injuries. And I think it's such a hard thing for a young coach, especially to learn how to adapt. And I think it's a mixture of all of that, like all the above. Yes, the injuries are definitely going to play a factor, but you do still have a pretty decent squad regardless. I think when you look at it in the big picture, this is something I brought up last week, and I think more now after this Galaxy game. If this were any other part of the world, Atlanta United right now would basically be on the relegation line. And if you look at it like that, you've got to kind of figure out like a way to make it work. And that's the biggest thing. You've got to figure out something, change something up. It's like the Bears. I don't care if you run out with 3-0-6 and just roll 7, like just roll with it. Something's so different. And because what you're doing now, the little tweak just not enough.
I mean, he showed the adjustment though by reverting back to the 3 center backs after Austin. But the only consistent mistake I've seen him is starting Ronaldo Cisneros, and that's all.
So going back to like somewhat, what we were just talking about, or what, Tyler, what you brought up, and basically the comment that Self brought up as well, unless the front office sees that, not directly that, but, with the change that, hopefully it will be a good, change coming in with the new president coming in. And I believe somebody on here mentioned it earlier as well, like what kind of president do we expect, at this point for Atlanta United? It's hard to kind of like top what Darren Eales did for Atlanta. So you just kind of see what kind of approach this new guy is going to have, what kind of ideas, what kind of scouting is going to be done now. It's just so many questions in the air when it comes to that, but you would hope that Atlanta is looking at a high caliber guy that obviously knows the league and knows how. You don't want a Heinze situation where the guy comes in here and he's absolutely clueless of what the league is like. I mean, kind of have.
I think they learned that with Pineda, right? Like that was one of the reasons why they brought Pineda in, because Heinze, didn't know much of MLS. Constantly talked about how he didn't understand the roster rules, right? When he was trying to bring in a center back, was getting real frustrated because they were having trouble doing it, and that's why we had to bring Franco in as the DP. Frank DeBoer said he never even watched MLS in his life, so that was cool. Even though it was probably already, he knew he was coming and didn't watch it. I mean, it's ridiculous. So I mean, they're trying to do what they can with Pineda and, bringing a guy that knows the league, and it hasn't worked out so far. But, if you're bringing in a president, you hope that you could bring in someone right now that understands everything about the league, or even if they don't, you have to bring in people that do. And I know the cheater, Paul McDonough, I think Joe Patrick said he was at practice a couple weeks ago. That's interesting to me. You bring him in to whoever it's in, maybe we could get ATPs. That's a possibility. Like Miami, right? Like that's a real possibility. But I mean, at least you have someone coming in to be able to help that knows the salary cap. And I believe we hired someone else from MLS, their front office. I forget his name. Tyler, you might know who it is.
From the Will Wilson from U.S. Soccer.
No, there was somebody that works for Atlanta United now that used to work for the front office
of
MLS.
I forget it. I always want to say Dimitrov because that's Demetrius, whatever his name is. Demetrios, something like that. Yeah.
So
give me a minute.
If you're bringing in the right guys, I think that's okay. Like if you're bringing guys to help the president, but I mean, obviously we know that some of the big guys. I mean, you got the guy from Seattle and Columbus as well. I mean, those are big names that know the league and know how things run, and I think that's there's no real growing pains bringing someone in like that. So, I mean, I guess that's just my worry because I still think that we have a decent roster, but there's a lot of things that need to be changed. You got the defense. I mean, you probably got to move some guys out there. The midfield definitely needs to be completely reconstructed. But it's, I don't think we're that far off. Ariel, we can't end this without talking about Joseph Martinez. We need to get there before we end this because James and I are going to have a battle here.
But commenting on what you said, Tommy.
I mean, yeah, go ahead, James.
I think it's time we don't need just a club president and Boca too. Someone could do both of those jobs, in my opinion, because you're not building a club from scratch, like obviously Darren Neal's. And yeah, that's what we should do. We should have someone who can be the club president and can also build a pretty damn good roster with a competent midfield. I agree.
I don't care who it is. I just want them to turn this team back.
Yeah.
They're not, but you know what I mean. I just need them to do the job and do it well.
We still have 13 games, and we'll see.
And by the way, it was Dimitri. That's his first name. It's I don't know. I'm gonna butcher this, but it's like Efstathiou, or
that's
the guy you were talking about.
So, Tommy, what exactly did you want to hear about the Joseph situation?
So, Joseph Martinez, we got an interesting situation here. He is a free agent after next season. He's a DP. We talk about the article Felipe did with, when the whole Heinze situation was coming down. At that point, Joseph wasn't 100%. His body wasn't 100%. He admitted to it at the end of the season. And he said, still at that point, while injured, and where he possibly even talked about retiring, was that he wanted to be the highest paid player in MLS. And he wasn't going to take a pay cut. So now Joseph Martinez says he's rejuvenated. We haven't really seen the full rejuvenation. There's some people out there that are saying Joseph looks a little overweight lately. But tying up if Joseph, they talk to him at the end of the season and say they want to extend his contract, but they want to move him to a TAM player. If that's a situation, I'm completely fine with it. But are you comfortable locking Joseph Martinez up for 2 to 3 years, knowing his injury history and kind of lack what he's been able to show what he is this season? He's already had another surgery this year too.
Well, I got to watch these 13 games, man, because he hasn't been fully back into the lineup, especially this last week. And hold on, one more thing. I ran a poll on my random goals account, and there were 60 votes on would you sign Joseph Martinez as a DP right now. It was 60% no as of right now.
And I think that's the fan base adjusting.
He's not
possibly
playing like a DP player right now, but
absolutely not. But he could still give you that easily.
He's got to. He does have to have time to get back, and I think the biggest thing is people are always going to be like, oh, he's had I don't know, 2 months now. But it wasn't just the one knee, and it was the other surgery, and I don't think it helps considering all the turmoil that everything else is going on with the team and the chemistry and all. So, I mean, Joseph said his best when he has guys that he can almost read, and he hasn't had that in forever. I don't want to, but I mean, it's been a minute. So, I think some consistency around him too.
But I mean, this decision is probably going to be the biggest decision of your new president immediately, because you could let him go for nothing, and I don't think Atlanta United would want to do that. And there's a potential that someone new could come in and not have ties to this team, like a Darren Eales or a Carlos, where they're going to say these guys are untouchable. I mean, who knows? They could go out and say their one buyout is going to be Brad Guzan. And I don't see that the front office that we have today, obviously Darren's leaving in a couple days. I don't think they would have done that to Brad Guzan previously. And there's going to be a guy that has no emotion for any of these players coming in. And it's going to be interesting because I don't know. I don't know if signing Joseph for 2-3 more years after next year is smart money-wise.
He might come in next season though, and I mean that's the thing about Joseph is he can turn on whenever it happens, and then it's going to come in bunches. This guy, freaking Orlando. Look, Orlando needs something, man. Give them something.
Sacramento, let's go.
Oh, dudes, I hope they go off.
I believe.
I think they can.
Oh, they beat the LA Galaxy, right?
Man, let me bring that up.
Yeah.
But this is a conversation nobody wants to have. But it really needs to be said. Like, locking this guy up could have set us back. He gets another knee injury, and he's out for 3-4 months. Guys with knee injuries, I mean, Zlatan's also a drama queen, but I mean, how many times has he had to get that knee cleaned up? When you get your knee cleaned up, you're not out for a week or two. What did Joseph miss? 6 weeks, 5 games?
Well, Zlatan's 40 years old too.
Yeah, but I mean,
but he's also
Zlatan's in better shape as well.
He's also Zlatan.
Yeah,
can't really say much.
I mean, the guy's a freaking black belt in what, like karate or something, or like taekwondo or something. So yeah, but with what Chris commented on here is like, if you're a striker and you're getting DP money and you're not converting, then I love you, Martinez, but it's time to get a DP that's a goal scorer. Honestly, that's what I was gonna say, man. I feel like if it's the new president that's gonna be coming in, and you have a guy that really has been paying close attention, or that really goes closely into what is actually going on around the club. And I mean, you guys said that. I mean, obviously you have 13 games left in the season, but I don't know. I just don't see Joseph being, him either being worthy of, a DP contract, and if he's able to, renegotiate and all that, then obviously still keep him around. But I don't know, man. This is one thing that Atlanta United, and obviously you kind of have to throw that on Boca's back, that the negotiations, the salary negotiations that they've had has kind of been poor. They've been poor decisions, honestly.
Yeah, but I mean, what are the chances we
being overpaid, honestly?
But what are the chances we sign like a Chucho Hernandez or a Joseph Martinez?
I mean, you kind of like at one point have to be looking at those kind of signings, bringing a big name player that is gonna be able to put it in the back of the net. I mean, that's basically what Atlanta United was at the end of the season. I mean, not the end of the season, at the beginning of that when they first came out. The early years is like you have guys scoring. It was just fun watching it, because that you were gonna get goals, and you have to bring in a guy that eventually is that guy, that center guy, that entertainment. Obviously big names, Cucho, LA have these big names coming in, Gareth Bell, Zlatan, when he came to the Galaxy. Thierry Henry when he came to the Red Bulls, those kind of names, obviously you're not gonna want to bring a guy that's like past 35, obviously, but you got to look and see that you got to bring in, guys that are just proven, killers in front of the net. If it comes down to replacing Joseph after the season.
And I don't trust Carlos to do that at that
No.
moment. I wouldn't.
No.
But negotiation wise, I mean, just go back to what Joseph said a couple of weeks ago, right? He was trash talking the front office. I mean, it didn't seem like it at times, but there was definitely some comments that it was like the front office is bringing these players in that don't want to play for us. So that's something there. So you're telling me that Joseph and his agent are going to go talk to Carlos, and they're Carlos is going to talk him into taking a deal. I just don't see that at this time. I think that someone new comes in, potentially talks to Joseph about it. Great. But I just don't see this being a wise choice, locking him up long term, because there's got to be a change here somewhere on there. And,
Go ahead, Tom. I'm not trying to cut you off.
I don't know. I'm just ranting at this point. I'm just depressed.
No, I mean, I think if you're the new whoever the new guy is, I think it benefits you that you don't have the emotional connection. But dependent upon what Joseph does the rest of this, and I think get the new president in, find you somebody that actually knows how to scout, because that's kind of not been our greatest strength the past couple of years. And get you somebody that really knows talent and knows what they're looking at, and bring them in that chief scout and start looking. That doesn't mean you got to like tie down, but get you a solid list of 4 or 5 guys and see how Joseph does up until this time next season during the window. And if he hasn't done it, then you try to pull the trigger on one of these other guys. But Joseph may not between now and then and be in the race for another golden boot. We don't know, but we all know he's capable of it. So you can't. I don't think you can just give up. Not now, anyway. I think. Then I also think next summer rolls around, you have to do something. You have to make either you get him on something somehow, or you sell him and make some kind of movement. Because if you get, like Tommy, I know you bring it up in the spaces all. You can't let the dude walk on a free. Like you've got to make Martinez.
Yeah.
Let Boca fire him. Let Boca trade him, and then fire him. Here's what the new president needs to do. He needs to have Boca trade Joseph or sell him, and then say that he didn't approve it. Fire Boca, and he's then the most popular person in Atlanta because he fired Boca for getting rid of Joseph Martinez. It's the perfect plan. This is legitimately the perfect plan. Like
there you go.
There's nothing better here that you could do.
All right, Chicago. Let's get it.
Yeah. No, yeah, definitely going into the Chicago game. I mean, you would hope and you would think and pray to the gods that you see a different change of attitude, when it comes to the approach of this game, in every aspect, not just for the players, but for Pineda as well, because at the end of the day, I mean, the players, are getting the direction from, or, whatever, Pineda's telling them to do. I mean, there just has to be some kind of better understanding. And, we just hope that as a fan base, personally, I mean, obviously we want them to do better. But realistically, I mean, do we see these, defensive, like bad lapses of defense, get better, the defending get better, set pieces, or when it comes to the offense, being more clinical. What do we really see that going forward into the stretch?
No, we've never scored in Chicago ever.
All right.
Never scored a goal there. I don't know. My predictions here is that Rocco does not start.
Yeah.
My other prediction is that Amado will start. And We lose 2-0.
Oh, let me just say this. We're talking about we haven't scored in whatever, but the LA Galaxy never scored on us. The Galaxy came in losing 3 straight games. Chicago comes in winning 3 straight games. Basically, I mean, we played them earlier. Shaqiri wasn't like kind of settled in like he is now, and Chris Mueller, that was his like first game appearance for Chicago, and now he's playing insane. It points to us losing, but we're winning 10-0, and don't worry about it. We should no. I'm being real now. We should come into this game making 3 points. I don't care. I don't care how good Chicago is. I don't care. We should win. Soldier Field. I don't care. There's no excuse.
James Lasso, everybody. James Lasso.
No, but I'm serious. There's no excuse.
Be a goldfish. Be a goldfish, Atlanta United.
Bro, it's crazy because he's literally like the only one that's like saying that, you know, we come out and win. Everybody else is literally giving Chicago the win already.
Still, it's MLS, bro. Anything can happen. I swear.
Yeah, like, and that's the thing that, you know, we all know this. This is the thing though, but like seriously, and like even so, Atlanta just happens to disappoint us, you know, week after week, you know, with these like you know, like poor performances to the point where, you know, you're just like this head scratching, like literally. At times you look at it and then you're like, there's no way you can be this bad.
We're in Atlanta United though.
But they surprised us with against RSL, like, you know, and that's, I guess that's your point, James. It's like I don't think anybody expected Atlanta to come out like how they came against RSL. That was the best.
I did actually, but that's fine.
That was probably one of the most complete Jesus Christ. It was probably one of the best performances that we've seen.
Yeah,
under Pineda, almost like it was a full team effort. I mean, the press was there. It was fun to watch, and I was like, okay, maybe this is what we're going to see going forward. And we're seeing it maybe for 40 minutes a game now.
Yeah, but I think the only thing
40 minutes after they've already goal. That's the problem.
Exactly.
That can screw us
them game, then it's a different story.
The only thing that can screw us here is Pineda starting Cisneros because he's good against the fire. That's the only thing that could ruin this game for me.
The kid's got another hat trick incoming.
If Cisneros starts, we're gonna lose. There you go. Have a good day.
No, but seriously, I mean, at this point, kind of going forward, let's say, you know, Almada doesn't get the start, Godinho doesn't get the start, Joseph doesn't get to start again. You know, what questions are we really gonna be asking? Like, what the hell is really going on in the locker room that, you know, we don't. You know, we're not seeing. When is the Felipe story gonna come out? You know, when he's like,
but I think Pineda, I think he's understanding it, just like the problem with the 3 center backs. I feel like he's starting to get it now. And I've said it all year about Cisneros. He subs him off at halftime. Oh, thank gosh, he's finally done. But he keeps coming back. But yeah, I feel like he's learning now. He knows what to do. I trust him in this one. And if an hour before the match I see that same lineup, then it's a different story.
And Pineda, we trust.
I trust him. There's no reason to judge him right now until next season, literally.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with upon the lineup. I agree. I think that's gonna be a victor.
Mm-hmm.
If we start Joseph or even Dom, like start Dom. And you obviously you have to start Almada because if issue a Barco thing going on, whatever, I don't know, if there's something going on, you have to figure out another way to address that, because that's the difference between Barco and Almada. Tata could afford not to play Barco, or to not play Almada at this point. Like you have to do something, and you've got to play your best group, and because at the same time, Pineda's job on the line as well. So you figure out a way to discipline somebody if that's what it is, and do it elsewhere. You got to put him on the field to save yourself. But
yeah,
I'm gonna say what I said earlier. I'm gonna say 2-1 Chicago.
We're doing this.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Look, and I hate to do that on like the first time on the show, because I'm always the optimistic guy every time. So I'm just trying to do something different. So maybe I'll just be completely wrong and we'll end up winning like 5-0.
Okay.
It's the hope that gets you, man. That's the dagger that just gets you.
Yeah.
I hope I watch and then I hope again. I don't let it kill me.
I'm not looking ahead, but man, I am scared to death of that Seattle game in 2 weeks.
I'm excited. It's gonna be a great atmosphere after we win this one. Everyone's feeling good. 70K in the stadium. Let's go.
I hope it doesn't happen either. I'm right there with you. I'm trying to play like some games with fake.
MLS, man. It's MLS.
We can only keep saying that until we are at the bottom of the table, and then
until
we can just say that it's MLS and we suck.
We're right there.
About to be ready. It's just where we're at right now. It sucks. We're gonna be playing with the twos.
All right, guys. Well, we've been here more than an hour. I mean, we're usually all here for the hour, but I mean, it's cool if we're here a little bit more. But I mean, I don't know if
5 miles. 5 miles, guys. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Congrats.
Appreciate it.
Hey, man, we kept you entertained. You're welcome.
And you didn't get hit by a car.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, I don't know if there's anything else that you guys want to bring up, Tyler, Tommy, or James. If any of you guys have any comments.
I would have brought all that stuff with the new.
Oh yeah.
Announcement. I don't think it's much of an announcement.
We're gonna look for the best guy for the job.
Mm-hmm.
But
they did the same thing with the Falcons. I mean, I watched all those when they fired everybody, from the Falcons a couple of years ago, and it's the same thing. They're just gonna say that they're gonna look across the world, for the best fit, and it'll just end up being Boca. So I mean,
Darren's gonna come in.
Lord, please don't even say that.
Hey, playing the long game.
Yeah.
Is Darren actually is he really going to assist in finding his replacement? Is that a true story?
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've read that in a few places.
Damn, I had no idea about that, but yeah, that's gonna be crucial. Well, guys, again, like I said at the beginning of the show, follow these guys, Tyler, ATL Pilgrim, Let's Go Ducks 96 for Tommy, and Kyle Don't Miss 26 for James. Myself is Resurge Spike ATL on Twitter. Follow us, Feel a Sports Podcast. Tyler, thank you for being here. Same as you guys. James,
hang out on Spaces with us after games. It's a fun time.
I mean, the usual guys that are here on Twitter, from commenting from Twitter, they're always on there. But there's some people from Facebook as well on here. Come to the Twitter world. It's better, man. Fuck Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook sports arguments somehow are just like the worst. They're worse than Twitter, and it's a lot of people that don't really understand. They don't I think a lot of people just don't understand what Twitter is. So, that's why they stick on there, and they're terrible with their sports takes. But yeah, I mean, we already got Zilf talking now, which is nice. But Joshua, let's hop on and come chat with us.
It's fun time.
I'll try not to accidentally click the X button while waiting for 30 minutes while I'm scrolling through.
Oh man, I'm try so hard. I wish an easier way to do it.
I know, like I'm trying to scroll through my timeline and then I click X and then
I'm afraid I'm going to do that hosting it one day because I've come very, very close.
Yeah,
that's happened. Yeah, a couple of times with me as well. But yeah, man, I mean, come give these guys, listen. I'm usually there as well, James. I mean, literally, we're all four of us are there, like 90%. Well, you guys obviously host, but we're not there until 5 a.m. How you guys are, man? Like, definitely a huge respect to you, Tyler. Honestly,
I hopped out at 3
a.m.
I couldn't do it
until 3.
I was delirious. I was done.
I couldn't do
both. We did 3 hours the next day, and Tyler did 8 hours of Spaces in less than 24 hours. It was crazy.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
That's a lot, man. That's a lot.
About the worst game of the like. It was just a terrible game to talk about.
Yeah.
But that's how we get all our listeners is when we lose. We get like
Exactly.
1,500. We get like 1,500 people when we lose, and when we win, we get like 300 to 500 or something like that.
Yeah.
Everybody's out wild and partying out, man, that we won. That's why. And then, you know, when we lose, it's like, you know, you just want to stay home, drink some beers, and, you know, just sitting there and contemplate about life.
Well, we know how you are, Ariel. If you go to the game and have some drinks after a loss,
Hey, next week, man, you'll see me be myself again. So you'll see the
Are you going to Seattle game?
Yeah, I'm going to the Seattle game. So
I hope your lady's next to you. It's fun listening to her yell at you while you're on Spaces.
She will, man. I'm sure she will. Ooh, man, that was good times, man.
The best. Those are the best ones. Sometimes I'll have my phone, and then my wife goes, "Is that his lady yelling at him on Spaces?" I go, "Oh yeah." She goes, "Oh man, he's wasted." Or when you do the Facebook Live, those are the best ones. I show her. I go, "He's at it again."
Well, when you're asking me to chug a beer live, I'm like, damn right.
That was a proud moment. That's a proud moment. She's like, she yelled at me. She's like, "Why are you getting him to do that? He already looks wasted." I go, "I know. That's why I'm having him do it."
All right, guys. Well, hold on.
Like a proud dad.
Thank you guys for, you know, the ones that are on here. And like I said, subscribe, follow us, and, you know, I'm going to go ahead and end this. But